number of different options. But I think the rest of the stuff I'll hold for the next lecture.
Nice to hear about the 2x2.
IB.
So I'm the principal at Belvedere, and Belvedere is the first school in Fairfax County to embark on implementing the International Baccalaureate at the elementary level. At the elementary level, that's called the primary year program, the TYC. And we just had a school to be in its first year is TA school at Catholic. They just started. So the International Baccalaureate at the elementary level is all-encompassing for all students. Unlike the diploma program at the high school, where students opt in to take some courses or participate in the full diploma at the elementary level, the IB is for all students. And it starts at the preschool level and goes all the way to fifth grade. The school that I has a fairly large preschool in Fairfax County that includes the idea of the International Baccalaureate is providing students opportunities curriculum of college
Yours? No.
Hi. If anybody can hear, can you mute your lines, please, because it's causing a lot of feedback. I'm going to put the phone right at the table where the panel is talking, but I have to have everyone muted so it doesn't give a lot of distortion. Thanks.
inquire into areas of their interest within the realm of that unit. So there's space for open inquiry as well. The culminating project for the primary years program is called the exhibition project. It happens in 5th grade. And the exhibition project is actually a unit in 5th grade that the students in 5th grade write together with their teachers. And then each student takes on a project, a working group. They select an area of interest under the umbrella of the central idea of this unit, and they research project. They research, they have a mentor. It's a whole school endeavor. All teachers and parent volunteers are involved. We all mentor groups of students throughout the process of this research project. They think of how to present their project. The project has to include an action. A big part of the IB is that we educate students who are prepared for a world that maybe we don't even know what it's going to look like, and where they will go out into this world and make the world a better and more peaceful place. That's the mission of the IB. And so within these projects, students have to take action to improve something within the area of study that they've selected. And we do a huge exhibition. It's all students have found different ways to present their work. And at Belvedere, our students present in English, and they also present some of it in Spanish. All Ivy schools have to have a second language. At Belvedere, it's Spanish. So that's a little bit about the primary years program.
Hello, I'm Christy Geyer to share a little bit about project-based learning. I guess the first thing to share is that project-based learning, PBL as we call it, is not a program. Rather, it's a curriculum model, it's an instructional model, a way to approach teaching and learning. So, as I hope you're all aware, in 2014, the Fairfax County Public School Board adopted Portrait of a Graduate. And under Portrait of a Graduate, we've identified 5 attributes that we aim for all students to develop by the time they graduate from Fairfax County Public Schools. Communicator, collaborator, goal-directed and resilient individual, global and ethical citizen, and creative and critical thinker. And in order for students to develop those attributes, we know that they are going to need learning experiences that allow them to practice the skills that develop over time into those ways of being. And project-based learning is one type of meaningful learning experience that allows students the opportunity to learn the content that the state has identified that students need to learn, while also developing the skills needed to develop into Portrait of a Graduate. And as Celia mentioned, we know that we're preparing kids for an unknown world. We don't know what their jobs are going to be. We don't know what challenges they're going to need to solve for us. So we need to prepare them with experiences that allow them to have the skills to know what to do with any kind of information that they acquire and to be able to solve any kind of problem or challenge that they're presented with. So in project-based learning, we present students, instead of here's the content, here's the curriculum, learn it, now take the test, they'll maybe get to do a project. We instead say, let's start with a challenge. And let's ask kids, what do you need to know in order to be successful in providing a solution or a recommendation to this challenge? And students themselves identify, well, here's what I think we need to know. From there, teachers craft learning experiences that allow students the opportunity to learn that content in a variety of ways. Some that involve teacher-directed instruction, some that's much more open-ended where students are truly inquiring and finding information on their own, utilizing technology to help them as appropriate, collaborating with each other in order to draft different ideas, to get feedback, or to improve their ideas. They have the opportunity to revise real world, and eventually they have the opportunity to share with an audience that goes beyond that student-teacher interaction. Really the goal is for students to own their learning, to recognize, here's how I learn best, here's how I approach a problem, and here's how I'm able to put my own spin on this information, here's how I'm able to make sense of it for myself in order for me to be able to contribute to the greater world. In terms of who this instructional model is open towards, it's open for anyone. One of our biggest challenges is that it does look different from what doing school looked like whenever we were in school and when a lot of our teachers were in school. So it does take a little bit of relearning on the parts of our teachers in order to implement with fidelity so that our students do have the experience that the model intends. But for any teachers who are open to it, we offer extensive professional development in the county to help them understand how to implement this within their classroom. And if they have supportive administration as well as supportive collaborative teammates, it is open to any student in Fairfax County. We're proud that we've been in about 80% of our schools.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mia Devers. I'm the proud principal of Dogwood Elementary School, and we are in our first year of candidacy as a primary years program, Ivy Elementary School. And as for the question of the eligible application and selection process, we open our doors at 8:35 every morning, and any child that comes through our door, that is our selection and our application process. We welcome every child that comes through. With a and we can't wait to see them every day to learn about their strengths and their experiences, because they have so much to add to the culture of our school, and they have so much knowledge to add to everybody else's learning. One of the things, and Cecilia encapsulated the concepts around International Baccalaureate and CYP. The couple other pieces that I want to add is that the learner profile, which is thinking about the portrait of a graduate from Fairfax County. It's the International Baccalaureate definition of developing internationally minded people, right? So being a reflective, open-minded communicator who is caring and balanced, all of those components and attributes that we want our children to develop into. That's the central focus of what international minded is, and it carries from elementary to middle to high school, right? So our children who have needed to be in the elementary IB program, a PYC school, they develop at a very early age, and at Dogwood we start at 6 weeks because we have the early Head Start program. So to hear the little babies, I talk and the teacher sharing with them what caring means, what being balanced, well balanced at 6 weeks old is a little much, but that language starts so very early, and it's so important to develop that within our children, and to also work with our families too, so that they understand that language as they raise their children. The other component is the second language component. So we talk about when Jeremy was sharing about the importance of STEM and STEAM programming and the understanding around the engineering and math and science and the art. We have a STEAM program at Dogwood, and because that language component is so important, because we celebrate international mindedness, we have a Spanish STEAM program where the teacher teaches STEAM concepts. She teaches about the watersheds and the ecosystem. We do coding with Scratch and the Autobot, but she does it in Spanish, right? So a lot of our students can access the content in their native language, which is really powerful, and to honor their home language, to be able to say, you know what, having a second language is critical, and we're going to do it in school too. And there's been some challenges of students who might not be their first language. But one of my favorite stories is I have a native English speaker who's struggling in Spanish STEAM. She got a new student came in from Afghanistan, and the empathy that she felt towards that student of coming into the building who has no background in English was phenomenal. So they hang out together at lunch, and they see each other at recess. So those are skills that you can't teach within a textbook, right? Those are experiences that we're able to provide, and that understanding of we're all connected, and that the learner profiles. It's a life skill. These are very important things to teach all of our children. So the idea around advocacy of advanced programming for all, it's in CYP.
Is Margot, or the last name, and Margot here? Okay. Supposed to have somebody speak about the AAP. They're not here. Two lines.
Sure. So at Belvedere, we also have an advanced academic level 4 center, and in Fairfax County, the students who qualify for the level 4 services go through a central selection process. So there is a portfolio that's created for each child that either parents nominate for the process or the school nominates for the process, and they work together with the advanced academics research teacher to put forth a portfolio at the school. We have a screening process where we go through each child and think about, what are the strengths of the child and how can we best highlight that, and what work do we have to support that to put together a whole portfolio. And then there's a countywide central selection process that takes into account the portfolio, which also includes some test scores. The Naglieri that's given in first grade, the COGAT tests that are given in second grade, and sometimes parents have outside testing as well. Students who qualify because of the composite of their profile, not just because of one test score. So not having an incredibly high COGAT or NAGLIER results does not preclude a child necessarily from qualifying for the advanced academics program. When children qualify for advanced academics, they have a choice. The parents can decide to not send them to a center and keep them at their local schools. Many Fairfax County Public Schools today have what's called a local level 4, so they offer level 4 service at the local schools. And a lot of parents want to keep their children there because that's where they've been the whole time. They have friends, it's their community. Or they have the option of sending the children to a center school, like Belvedere is the center school. We receive children from 10 different schools. And so the centers begin the AAP Level 4 center, whether it's local or it's a center, it begins in grade 3. And it goes through grade 6 in schools that go through 6th grade and through grade 5 in schools like mine that go through 5th grade. And then the AAP continues at the middle school. The students who are in the AAP Level 4 center receive instruction in advanced curriculum across all subject areas. The biggest difference that you will see is that math is generally a year advanced. So in 3rd grade, they learn 3rd and 4th grade math. In 4th grade, they touch up on 4th grade by doing mainly 5th grade math. And in 6th grade, they go straight into, in 5th grade, they go straight into 6th grade math, and 6th grade, 7th grade math. So it jumps a year ahead. And they skip an SOL as well. So in 3rd grade, they'll take the 3rd grade SOL in math. In 4th grade, they will take the 4th grade SOL in math. But in 5th grade, since they're doing 6th grade math, they will take the 6th grade SOL. So they skip the 5th grade SOL, math SOL. The other subject areas, they take the same SOLs as the other students. At Belvedere, we're an IB school. Our level 4 teachers and general ed teachers function as a team. They write curriculum together. They agree on learning experiences together. And what we deliver to our students is the same for all students, but it's all an advanced curriculum.
I would propose to amend the bylaws to increase our time past 90 minutes. We always have too much quality information and not enough time to share it. So we are going to move through. We can go from the other side of the table this time, and we ask you to keep your answer to 2 minutes if possible. How is your program impacting students of Title I schools, especially those who are historically underserved and underrepresented?
Well, first, okay. So I'm looking for an email that I sent. So we've had an amazing influx of newcomer level 1 students at Dogwood. From Afghanistan, we've had students, and it's funny because we'll hear stories like, does your new student speak Dari? And I have to think to myself, which one of my students in my building speak Dari? Because I want to make sure to connect them. And I want to hear their stories of what was their first day in school like, what was their entry into the country like. So I try to capture some of those stories, and I'm going somewhere with this. There was a student who came in. She was able to come in and participate. She was in first grade. She was able to participate in a unit of inquiry where the central idea was movement affects and changes perspective. And so it also encompassed the standards around Jamestown and the history. And this one student who just moved from Afghanistan, this was her response in her assessment. In Afghanistan, it was not good. In Reston, I was so glad. Afghanistan was very scared. I am safer here in Reston. So that perspective of her travel and her journey, she was able to understand that central idea and to communicate it into her own words in her assessment. And when we talk about underserved and underrepresented students who need a voice, PYP allows for that, right? That's 2 minutes.
Take you on the road.
Can I add to that? So I completely agree with Mie. When we started on the app with the IB at Belvedere, when I came to Belvedere as a principal, the Level 4 Center was already there. And one of the exciting things that I thought around that was that, you know, having a Level 4 Center, there would be an opportunity to tap into all those resources to make them available for all. But making that a reality was a really bumpy road, and it didn't happen easily, and there were so many barriers. The IB has done away with all of that. The IB is high-level learning for all students, no matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is, because it's all about we all are thinkers, we all have gifts, we all come with stories, and we all have so much to share and so much to contribute. And the IB taps into that, highlights that, and makes everybody a successful learner. I can't say enough about it.
I will echo the sentiments of project-based learning. A big part of PBL is offering students voice and choice and ownership over their learning. And if we're thinking about providing access for all students, we know that kids need opportunities to be able to shine and to be able to find the things that speak to them and the way for them to be able to show what they have to offer and to be able to contribute in ways that make sense to them, in ways that are especially impactful for them. And having that opportunity to have lots of ownership over how they learn and how they share their learning has truly been invaluable. One of the things that we've been very excited about is seeing the number of students who have had artifacts and who have been able to become eligible for Level 4 or for AAP Center programming because their teachers have been able to say, I saw this in this student when they were acting as engineers in order to design a tiny house footprint for their math unit that they were doing, or whenever they were acting as advocates for a policy change to better impact their greater community. So by having the opportunity to really show who they are as learners in ways that aren't prescribed by the teacher of a compliance, A, B, C, D, you must do this, but rather here's what you've learned and show us how you've learned, we're able to really see students shine. So we've really been able to see some really wonderful things from students who maybe didn't have that opportunity in a more standardized curriculum.
Okay. So one of the things that we have as a part of our admissions office is the outreach portion of what we do. And this is actually focused predominantly on upper elementary school and providing students opportunities in STEM that they may not have otherwise had. Our focus traditionally is on both schools as well as students who are historically underrepresented at TJ. In fact, we've worked with the two schools up here as well as many others this year. And so what we do and what we have been doing over the past few years, one is one of our guest speakers is going to talk about a little bit later, but we've worked together in terms of trying to get students to have hands-on experiences within STEM that may not be what they would typically get at a school. For example, an entire school, Woodlawn, recently, this past fall, did the Cardboard Challenge. And if you're not familiar with the International Cardboard Challenge in Canes Arcade, I would encourage you to please Google it. This was something that we started small. It initiated as a small Saturday type of thing or an after-school type of thing, and it has grown into an entire school event for an entire day where they work on the Cardboard Challenge. That's one example. The Think of It Lab, which you'll find out more about, is another example. Chesapeake Bay Foundation, where students actually get on a boat and go out and learn about pollution and different options and opportunities. What our goal is to provide and help schools be able to provide these field trips, provide transportation and funding, and get teachers and the students engaged in this type of work that complements what they're learning in school, but it also exposes them to something that they may not have had beforehand, along with some different things that we hold at our school, which is an extremely large event that we've had for a number of years. Just as an example, is Techstravaganza. and helping bring students to that school that may not be able to do those things. So that's a big focus in terms of what we're looking at, is to try to reach students that may otherwise not have opportunities to be able to do that.
And for Student Leadership Academy, data is collected on what students throughout the 30-week program. Data in terms of a grit survey, grit meaning perseverance, and attendance, keeping up with the attendance before a beginning of the year and end of the year student survey, and a parent survey. And from that data, some information that was gathered, the impact the program had were some things such as efficacy, how students have demonstrated a sense of that they can do this, or that they and they are able to code and learn and set goals for themselves. They've deepened their relationships with a group of people, being with these same group of kids for a long period of time, so they've built relationships with them. Some students have decided to take a coding a coding class in 7th grade as an elective because of the experience they've had in 6th grade. Teachers notice more perseverance within the students as they face challenges. Instead of just giving up because they can't do it, they kind of work through it because of this experience. Some students were more willing to step up to help others as they assisted other students in the classroom. Classroom teachers also said that the students were more eager to help others and eager to invite other staff members or other teachers to come and see their projects and what they developed. So they felt really very proud of their work. And some parents have said that one parent said that their child was able to present in front of others, which was not something that they would have done before. So their parents stated that they were really happy about that. So in the impact for the work and how this program has supported the kids who go through this process has been very huge gain.
Are there any commonly held misconceptions about your program?
Go back down. All right. And so for Student Leadership Academy, some people think that it's just for Title I schools only, and it's not. It's for any schools who are want to provide that opportunity for their schools and for their students. And I do have a handout at the end if you're interested to take back to your school to share with the principals. I do have that.
I talked about initially a couple of misconceptions that it's a gifted, talented school, it's an advanced academics high school, and it's not. One of the other things that I should mention is that there's a misconception that TJ is only for students that attend certain middle schools, and that's certainly not the case. We do have a large number of students that may come from some schools, but it's open and available to everyone. Another common one is that you have to have test prep to be able to get into TJ, and that's not true. You don't have to have test prep. There are things in which we put into our application processes that is intended to negate just the prep industry and changes, and we constantly and consistently look at that to try to refine and make that a better process and an equitable and fair process for all students.
As far as the PYP, there's some people who think that it's not, like, for some students in the school, like I was explaining, because at the high school level, it's an opt-in program. The elementary level is for everybody. In terms of the AAP level 4, I think there's a misconception sometimes that it's for students who are gifted. In Fairfax County, it's called Advanced Academics for a reason, and it's for students who demonstrate potential to learn maybe at a faster pace or a deeper pace, and who have a sort of a desire to go further that they've demonstrated. Doesn't necessarily mean that they are gifted, whatever that could be.
For project-based learning, one misconception is that because students really are empowered to own their learning, that means the teacher doesn't matter. That you present the kids with this challenge and you say, go learn, I'll make sure presentation. And that's not it at all. The teacher is absolutely still in this integral relationship and person in that room. However, the shift is that the teacher is not the holder of all the knowledge that he or she imparts to students, but rather is a learner with students. The teacher is still crafting very intentionally the experiences that students have within their project-based learning opportunities, not just taking a place on the side and seeing what might happen.
I think to add to the PYP misconception, because it is so under the umbrella of international baccalaureate programming, I think I've heard some things around like, oh, we don't want that in elementary school because in secondary school it's testing, right? There's IB assessments and tests that students are required to take. So we don't want that in elementary school. But for us, it doesn't, that testing component doesn't apply. It's a framework for learning. And one of the, when we presented it to parents, I said, you know, the students will be asking a lot of questions. And one dad actually said, so my kid's going to come home and ask more questions. Really? Yes, we encourage that. And at the same time, it's not like free-range kids, right? Like we have very tight structures and we guide their learning and their thinking with them. So it's not, it's a very structured process.
Now, message from our school board members.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Karen Husamar. I'm your one of the at-large members and also your Title I liaison. I am just riveted by this discussion and am very disappointed that I have to leave and go to another meeting that's slightly less interesting. But I am just really glad to see all the hard work we're doing. We're going to be talking, at least one of my goals is to make some of these opportunities more accessible to all of our students. And so I'm going to be picking the brains of some folks here on how best to do that. But thank you so much for participating in this process. If you want to get in contact with me, you can certainly look online. It'll be obvious my picture's there. And you don't even have to remember my name. But just thank you so much. Thank you to the panelists. I'm so glad I popped in when I did and hate that I missed any of it. And again, I have to work there, but I just wanted to thank you guys for all the hard work.
Thank you.
And this is really, for us, since after this meeting, what we've learned from the last one doesn't stop here, it starts here. We take this information back to our community, take it back, we talk to our principal, we talk to our kids, we talk to whatever parent group or whatever advocacy space that we can be in to help and serve our mission of increasing engagement and helping parents develop their advocacy. So really ask you to tell us, how can we help you serve the maximum amount of kids with the maximum amount of effectiveness?
I'm just going to combine 4 and 5 together since we kind of running out of time a little bit.
That's fine.
So I think what would be helpful and the message to get out to others would be to help us advertise Student Leadership Academy even more, to get the word out, and just some other things that that by law, the Student Leadership Academy, they cannot provide refreshments for the students. I know that might sound like a small thing, but it's a big thing because you know how it is when you've been in school all day and been at work all day and you need a snack. So that's one piece that can be a challenge, but we work through, that schools do work through that and support that. And then more parent support and volunteers when they go on the field trip to the different schools. That's supportive. And then another challenge is the after-school transportation. So schools have to provide a bus for the kids to be able to get home because it's after school. And so that can sometimes create a challenge. But for the most part, the message that we want to get back out there is that this is for everyone, if the school can fund it, and that we have supports in Title I to help, to help in the implementation or sharing the information so that it can be successful.
Do you want to comment? Okay. So I think the biggest challenge is awareness, and then the awareness of what the program is, what it means for a student to be eligible to apply, whether they want to or not. I'm not here to drum up business necessarily, but I do want to make sure that students that are eligible and may be interested in a school that is focused in science and technology have an opportunity to go through and potentially choose TJ and have that as their high school option. The way that you all can help us is an awareness of what that means at the elementary level, how that feels, how that would work through in terms of math curriculum. But more importantly, than even in the math and the academics, it's the other things that go on. It's the different options and opportunities for a club that focuses on this or that. Something else that sometimes is the extra things that some of the students in your schools may not have the same options and opportunities. And so what we try to do is try to figure out ways to be able to combat that and provide options and opportunities. But the more of those types of things that we all are talking about that are available to the students, the better we're going to be able to give them a great learning experience throughout their entire school career in Fairfax County, whether that's with TJ or not.
I'll speak about the challenges that Ivy and we can chime in too. One of the beauties of Fairfax County is that we're a huge county and there's lots of different frameworks and programs and things that different schools can offer, and they all are equally wonderful, just maybe different presentations. One of the differences with the primary years program, it's a framework for a wholesale change at a school. It changes the entire culture of the school. And the way it's been brought to Fairfax County as we have implemented it, and now Dogwood is implementing it, it's sort of a grassroots from our schools into the county. It didn't come centrally from the county to our school. We made a conscious decision to go down this route, found the support in our leadership, and embarked on it, which comes with the drawback of it didn't come with funding that came additionally to our schools to support it. There have been some supports and there has been flexibility for us to fund it in different ways, but really for us, advocating that it be something that's funded, much like MYP and DP, is the most essential piece.
And I think for families, it's talk to the schools, like talk to administrators, talk to teachers, talk to whoever at your building to say, how can I support, right? If there are events, come to the event. Saturday, Dogwood, Zumba-thon, 4 to 6, EYP fundraiser, come dance for 2 hours, come support us. But I mean, those are the types of supports that we look for in our families because that will support the funding for EYP, right? But the conversations generate ideas. It helps families and staff come to an understanding around the programming together so that everybody's on the same page. But when we're connected and you come to the school and you support, right, that's what creates the school. So I would say help us in that way too.
So I would say mine is a little less logistical and more ideological. One, we're here to educate students. We're here to cultivate people, humans. Sometimes schools can feel a little bit more like getting a test score, and we know our kids are so much more than numbers. So continue to advocate for that. Let your school board representatives know that tests matter, and there are things that no test will ever tell you about a child, and those deserve to be recognized. And perhaps we need to look at some more progressive assessment measures to help us be able to bring that information to light. And that's where things like PBL, different types of instructional programming that allow us to cultivate those post-graduate attributes for our students, those are really important. But those soft skills, they're called soft for a reason. They're hard to get that data around. We need to start thinking a little bit more progressively about how we show the successes that our students are having. I think the more that you can advocate for recognizing that we are here to educate people and cultivate humans, the better off we'll be.
And we obviously do not have time. So please write on your blue paper the topic and whatever questions you have. We will see to it that they are answered. That will come back and format from this back email. Thank all of you for being here. your time and your expertise and information. We have one final presentation. It's Jim Eigenreiter talking about Think of It Lab. I hope you all can see all your programs in 9 minutes. Hi, I'm Jim Eigenreiter, and I am a research professor in STEM education, engineering education, and natural resources and environment for Virginia Tech here in the National Capital Region. This is a great meeting for me. It's like an aggregation of all the things I think about, admittedly worry about, and then try to provide solutions to enhance. Yeah. I have a lab in easternmost Fairfax County, adjacent to the Falls Church border, right next to West Falls Church Metro, called the Think of It Lab. It's sponsored by Qualcomm, which is a company that you may not know about, but you use their products every hour. They make the internal components of nearly every Android device, the modems for every Apple device, and then CDMA, 4G, 3G, 5G, 4G LTE, airplane mode. They have the patents and licenses for all these things. So we built this lab together to provide early STEM exposures. And the National Academies said that there are 3 key components for resilience in STEM or technical fields. And that's highly engaging curriculum, after-school clubs, and activities. And then Saturday and summer enrichment. I'll add a 4th, and that is early exposure. Those things help kids get past a bad science fair experience, a bad Algebra 1 experience, and all those things that are setbacks, particularly for the students we're all representing here today, who might not have infrastructures at home saying, don't worry about it, we'll find another way, or don't worry about it, I experienced that myself, those kinds of messages. So we built this lab that has been in operation about 2 years and 4 months. We just broke 11,000 student visits this week. So that's 11,000, 94% are from Tier 1 schools. And almost all your schools represented here have visited, but not all. So we're going to work on that, and Jeremy's colleagues are helping me with that every day. But you can also see that we've also worked with it's now over 2,000 teachers and administrators as well. I work with 17 school districts, but thanks to Jeremy's colleagues, the majority are from Fairfax County. A typical day is about 3.5 to 4 hours visiting with me. Everything is free to everyone who comes to our lab, including lunch. We start with technical college and career exploration, and that involves strengths, interests, and values inventories, exploration of all sorts of technical careers common to companies around the Beltway here. And we're just trying to build this self-awareness that is the foundation for self-advocacy. Then we move into our creative robotics lab where we study circuits and schematics, reinforce a lot of those frequently missed SOL questions from 4th and 5th grade, like parallel versus series circuits and median mode and means and averages. And then we get into microcontrollers and microprocessors, which is the foundation for cybersecurity, as well as IoT, Internet of Things, and smart cities and smart schools initiatives. Then we program, I say program LEDs, but what we have students do is build a traffic light and program it themselves. Then we program servo motors, and from there we reintroduce an engineering design process. Even if they're 4th and 5th graders, we teach them an adult engineering design process. It's the foundation for PBBL and PJBL, and then we have them build their own creative robot. I think competitive robotics are great, but I'm really interested in what kids do on their own. I'm really a big believer in authentic audiences, authentic products, student autonomy, etc. And then they have them presented with a microphone in their hand, so they have that experience as well. So we've built now 29 labs like ours. VA is one of the very first. She had the coolest scissors for her ribbon cutting that I've not seen since. They're like this big. We're very interested in building more. Qualcomm suffered a big setback when Apple won a $16 billion lawsuit over licensing fees. They sue each other all the time, but this was a big one. And our budget for creating new labs like this was dramatically cut. My own budget was cut in half. But Virginia Tech rebounded. We're now working with our alumni so that if you have a school interested in building a lab, we find all the people in our alumni database with the same zip codes you serve, and we try to find ways to build these labs in your schools. I'm saturated. I have 2.3 full-time staff. I'm one, and then my 3 part-time instructors who are all moms who get their kids to school, come and help me for 6 hours, and then go get their kids to do we can't handle it anymore. So we want to build more labs like this. We have all kinds of outreach programs. We do a lot of teacher professional development. Again, everything is free to schools. We try to never say no to a request. We also maintain, of course, graduate programs in our campuses. So at any given time, I have 5 or 6 doctoral students working on these ideas and concepts, as well as about 30 master's students. Well, it's probably about 15 or 16 per semester who are working on different components of this. We will do teacher professional development at your school. I think it's great when you can come to my lab, but I know that's not easy, especially if you want full attendance. So I will come to your school. And we're looking to build new things like maker certifications for educators. We're really big on internships and how to facilitate them. We work very closely with Urban Alliance, and we also work very closely with On-Ramps to Careers. And I host anywhere from 36 to 48 high school internships a year, most of which are paid. And then we also are, right now, we're probably about 6 months away from an approval process to create a state-approved teacher certification licensure add-on endorsement in STEM education. We created it for the state of Maryland about 4 years ago, piloted it at Newport News about 2 years ago, and we've visited just about everybody who's a decision maker, and it looks like we have a green light for all 37 colleges and universities that train teachers in Virginia to offer these graduate courses. We also host maker fairs every year, alumni events, community groups, and we work with a group called IREX, some of you may know, International Research Exchange. They work closely with the State Department and the Embassy Network, and we match local high school students with students in mostly Africa, but elsewhere in the world, working on project-based learning internationally. Then we bring them all together. They meet in my lab, and they meet each other for the first time. It's like one of the coolest things you've ever seen. We also work with a wide variety of special audiences, and you'll see many of folks that you're familiar with listed up there. I'll let you read these slides on your own and email me if you have questions. We have Saturday camps. Most of them right now are for girls in STEM. I'm trying to fix that. Most of my Saturday camps are run by our nonprofit partners. I'm really big on supporting those all-volunteer nonprofits who have no staff, and I give them free space to work and offer their programs. And but I'm looking to expand that to include more programs for boys. But we sure have a lot of great girls programs. And then, of course, I've got master's, doctoral, and professional research in education leadership, special education, English language learners, how to build maker spaces in schools, computer science and engineering education, modeling, STEM and STELAB partnerships with schools, and then public engagement in things like school district boundaries. We actually just wrote an assessment proposal with Fairfax County. And then we're doing a lot of professional research. I have an NSF grant right now for minority girls in computer science, which beautifully is taking place in Arlington and Queens, right where Amazon decided to place its studios. Everyone's like, how did you do that? And I wish I tried it, but it was all luck. So you can see other things that are probably familiar to topics we've discussed in this group. And then I do a lot with workforce because I'm really big on early exposures that need to grow into our own future technical workforce. We have no problems attracting people with law degrees to this area, but it is really hard to attract technicians and even engineers. It might not be so hard now that Amazon is coming, but it has. And then I'm really big on internships. Jeremy, this is one of your former students, Grace, who got a perfect score on her physics AP exam, but was most interested in being in the color guard at UCLA. And I'm really big on bringing out all three dimensions of an intern. I want those interns to be their full selves and be polymaths, you know, people who, that's the modern word for Renaissance person, but people who explore all kinds of things. And I'm really big on creating those partnerships with businesses. So I think we're right now working with 19 different high schools in providing internships. I am really happy to help you create partnerships with companies and corporate responsibility officers in our area too. And that's how to reach me. You can see these slides yourself down there with that link. I think here. Okay, great. Yeah. And that's how to reach me, of course. And you can email me your questions just like you will these next things out here. Thanks. It's really for you to take back and think about what you just learned about advanced programming opportunities. What's the key takeaway for your respective Title I school community? We don't have time for discussion, so just something to think about.
You want them to write it on the blue card or what?
You know it now. Write the blue card. Otherwise, something that your principal meeting following this you can think about. Our next general session will be January 22nd.
In this room.
And that will be about special education from the clearance experience. And we had representatives from the county last year. This is kind of what happened, what to expect, how to empower parents whose children may be identified or already determined to have special needs and get them through that process. Because I think you'll find it's pretty insightful and pretty gripping because it's been just folks I know in the space. It's been a fight. You know, frankly, it's been a fight, and that's what advocacy is at the elemental level to fight. So make sure everybody can get out to there. And everybody who is virtually attending, please send your questions. And send it there. I try to get it closed down. So probably best to email the TPAC email address. If you have any questions, just make sure you have the subject so we can direct it to the proper expert. And we'll have any questions you have about the advanced programming information you have tonight. Answer.
So the meetings in this room next week?
Not next week. Come next week. Yes. On your way out, you get information about the
Student
Academy as well as theme opportunities. You have your children left to 11:80. The full lockers by 9 o'clock, so I would recommend you get them by 9. Unless you want them to stay on the base.